With Caitlin Clark sidelined for the WNBA All-Star Game, the spotlight shifted to the remaining players. This was their opportunity to show they could carry the stage and prove they were worthy of the attention and the paychecks they've been seeking. The players made their statement on the court, but the fans sent an even louder message. And it's one ESPN would rather you didn't hear. When the viewership numbers came in, it was clear the excitement had taken a major hit. Yet ESPN seemed more interested in protecting the league's image than in acknowledging the reality.
It's fine to just say, just post the ratings. But it is another situation than pretending like Caitlin Clark doesn't exist.
Caitlin Clark's fans didn't stay quiet. They called ESPN out immediately because this isn't the first time the network has tried to downplay her impact. But after what just happened on the court, their spin is backfiring hard. Let's break it all down. First off, if you're tired of ESPN's selective storytelling, hit that like button and subscribe for more updates on Clark and the WNBA. Here's the thing about ESPN. They don't flat out lie about Caitlin Clark's influence on viewership, but they're masters of selective reporting. They highlight the stats that fit their narrative while conveniently skipping the numbers that tell the full truth. Take the 2025 WNBA draft, for example. ESPN proudly announced that ratings were up 119%. Sounds amazing, right? But look closer. They compared it to 2023, skipping 2024 entirely.
Why?
Because 2024 was Clark's draft year, which brought in a massive 2.45 million viewers. If they compared 2025 to 2024, the headline would have been very different. Ratings down by 49%. That's not a flattering story for the league, so they simply avoided it, and this isn't a one-time trick. They pulled the same move during the 2025 March Madness tournament. For the early rounds, the Sweet 16 and Elite 8, they compared numbers to 2023. But once they got to the Final Four and championship game, the comparison stopped. Instead of saying down from last year, they just claimed it was the third highest viewership ever. Sounds impressive until you remember that 2023 and 2024, both Caitlin Clark years, were ahead of it. If they gave the full numbers, they'd have to admit viewership dropped by over 10 million. This is why fans are frustrated. It's not just an oversight, it's deliberate. ESPN seems to think that if they throw out enough big-sounding stats, people will believe women's basketball is breaking records without Clark. But ironically, by trying to bury her impact, they only make it more obvious how much she matters. It's the classic Streisand effect. The more you try to hide something, the more attention it gets. Clark's supporters catch this every single time. Every selective stat and every PR spin just proves the same point. She's the driving force behind the league's growth, and they can't stand admitting it. And it's not just ESPN. It's an issue throughout the WNBA ecosystem. Whenever the league or media try to downplay Clark's influence, they don't actually diminish her. They just expose their own insecurities. Look at what happened when Caitlin Clark was named Time Athlete of the Year. Instead of celebrating her, some voices in the league demanded that all WNBA players should be included on the cover, as if it was a participation award. Funny how that standard only applies to Clark. When Aya Wilson or Brianna Stewart land magazine covers, no one says a word about including everyone else. It didn't end there. Clark won an ESPY, and even her own coach struggled to congratulate her without immediately pivoting to credit the entire league. It's like the league can't admit that one player is carrying them to new heights.
Noticed or heard about it, but during the game, Caitlin got honored as the WNBA Player of the Year in the ESPYs. Just what does it mean to have her impact so far? I mean, there are a lot of really good players in this league, and she got honored as the best player in the league by the ESPYs.
Yeah, I mean, obviously she continues to get new awards. She continues to break barriers. She continues to do things that we haven't seen before. I mean, obviously you think about the Stewie's MVPs of the league and championship winners, and Asia's MVPs of the league and championship winners, and of course Sue Bird, who was sitting in the building today. And Caitlin is so fortunate, as well as all these guys, really. I mean, that they don't know anything any different than the WNBA.
That's how fragile the entire ecosystem around Caitlin Clark really is. Even giving her praise feels like it has to be politically negotiated. Anytime the media acknowledges her popularity, it's rarely presented as her own accomplishment. Instead, they water it down, spinning it as good for the league rather than crediting her directly. It's almost as if admitting that one player is single-handedly elevating the WNBA would be too uncomfortable for the people in charge. But the numbers don't lie. Whether it's ticket sales, viewership spikes, or jersey records, Clark's impact is undeniable. And the harder they try to share or dilute her credit, the more obvious it becomes that she's the main reason for all this attention.
The new fans are sucking life out of the WNBA right now.
We'll start with you, Kels, because Lord Jesus, your team and their fans,
Jesus,
they be getting up in everybody's business.
I think so many fans, feel they have the freedom to say whatever they want to us, and unfortunately, there's a lot of nasty things that come with it. They don't have people coming to their job saying these nasty things. So, we definitely have to protect the players better.
Whenever Caitlin Clark's success is discussed, the credit rarely goes directly to her. Instead, it's always pinned on something else, a manufactured rivalry, a viral moment, or some convenient narrative. Anything but the fact that she's the one pulling the numbers and driving the attention. And when the league or media finally acknowledge that she has millions of loyal fans, it somehow gets twisted into being a problem. Instead of celebrating the unprecedented fan base she's brought to women's basketball, they frame it as if her popularity is overshadowing everyone else, like that's a bad thing.
I can't imagine, folks, you know how many NBA players can get injured? And the prices would never drop to this low. LeBron James can be injured, Steph Curry could be injured, Kevin Durant could be in, and the prices still will not drop to be this low. $75? Folks, I'm sure there's some high school football teams down in Texas that charge you at least $75 to get to a home game.
And then the narrative takes a darker turn. Suddenly, Caitlin Clark's fans aren't just passionate. They're being painted as toxic, hateful, even racist. We hear claims like, they don't cheer for Paige Buchers because she speaks up on social justice, or Caitlin should have picked Angel Reese in the All-Star draft just to keep her fan base under control. Even the Phoenix Mercury jumped in with a thinly veiled shot, suggesting that Indianapolis isn't a safe place for players. It's bizarre. The league, the players, and parts of the media are all trying to diminish the very person who's carrying the WNBA's growth, while punishing the fans who are making it possible, and they know it. But instead of embracing this momentum, they're clinging to their egos and power. The irony? If Caitlin's fans tune out, that power evaporates overnight. This is especially critical now because the players are in the middle of intense CBA negotiations. They're hoping to cash in, largely thanks to a massive media rights deal. A deal that, if we're being honest, is riding almost entirely on Caitlin Clark's back. Behind closed doors, everyone knows the truth. When she's sidelined, ratings don't just dip, they collapse. Ticket prices don't just soften, they plummet 50% or more. That level of dependency on a single player? You don't see that in any other league.
3-point contest. ESPN, ABC, and Disney score the historic viewership for the 2025 WNBA All-Star events. Friday, July 18th, ESPN airs the most watched WNBA skills and 3-point contest ever, averaging 1.3 million viewers, which is up 89% versus last year's WNBA skills and 3-point contest, up 89%.
When Caitlin Clark was ruled out of the All-Star game, the pressure shifted hard onto the players. This was supposed to be the WNBA's marquee showcase, the biggest stage of the season. Suddenly, there was no Caitlin, no built-in rating surge, no automatic sellout. It was all on them, and from the very start, it went sideways. The moment Clark was ruled out, ticket prices instantly crashed by 48%. Fans weren't just disappointed, they were done. That left one huge question hanging over the entire weekend. Could the players salvage the moment without her? Or would this be the game that finally exposed just how much the league's momentum depends on one superstar? Well, now we have the answer. The numbers are in. And let's just say ESPN is scrambling, running full-blown damage control to spin what really happened.
All-Star Game ratings from this past weekend was the second most watched WNBA All-Star Game ever, behind 2024. No surprise there. The 2025 WNBA All-Star Game was the most watched program of the night, across all of TV, the night, not the day, with 2.2 million average viewers, up 158% from the 2023 WNBA All-Star Game.
The weekend actually started on a high note. The skills competition and three-point contest saw a massive viewership jump compared to 2024, a rare win for the league. For a moment, it looked like the players might actually pull this off. Maybe, just maybe, they could prove they didn't need Caitlin Clark on the floor to draw a crowd. But then, ESPN went right back to their old tricks.
This is historic. And they were like, scored historic viewership. How is it historic when it's like half of last year? Last year was nearly 4 million. How is it historic when it's like half of last year?
And did you catch the trick? ESPN compared the All-Star Game ratings to 2023, the year before Caitlin Clark even entered the league. Even though just a few lines earlier they compared the skills competition to 2024 in the very same post. Why the sudden switch? Gee, I wonder. Maybe because last year's All-Star Game, the one featuring Clark, drew 3.4 million viewers. This year, 2.2 million. That's a brutal 36% drop. 1.2 million fans gone. Instead of owning it, ESPN buried it. Imagine saying Kareem is the NBA's all-time leading scorer, with a little asterisk that says, except for LeBron. That's what this is. A deliberate spin to make the numbers sound historic while hiding the truth. Most people are busy. They see 2.2 million viewers up 158% and think the league is exploding. They don't have time to dig deeper, and ESPN is counting on that. Yes, the numbers are technically accurate, but the framing? It's designed to mislead, to create a story that isn't real, to paint this All-Star Game as some kind of historic breakthrough. It wasn't.
Well, Uncle KC, ESPN was comparing this year's All-Star Game to 2023. Why? Why in the hell would they do that? I'll tell you why ESPN did this. This is another example of the mainstream media protecting the WNBA. This is another example of ESPN polishing the turd with this dump of a league.
And here's where ESPN really screwed up, because instead of smoothing things over, their spin made everything worse. It triggered the Streisand effect. By trying to hide the drop, they practically put a spotlight on it. Everyone noticed the 2023 comparison trick. Fans who might have skimmed past the numbers suddenly dug in and started calling them out. Social media lit up with side-by-side comparisons, receipts from last year, and clips of Clark's all-star impact. What ESPN hoped would be a quiet narrative shift turned into a full-blown PR mess. And it's all because they tried to get cute with the numbers.
The WNBA players in their pregame warm-up came out in these t-shirts, "Pay us what you owe us." And then immediately pivoted to playing the worst All-Star game in the history of professional All-Star games. They took the court in t-shirts. "Pay us what you owe us. We're underpaid. This league has lost millions of dollars, but we're underpaid. Pay us what you owe us." And then they served up a doo-doo sandwich to sports fans.
Here's the thing. 2.2 million viewers is solid for a WNBA All-Star Game. But that 36% drop from last year's record, the Caitlin Clark year, makes her impact impossible to ignore. It's the elephant in the room that no amount of spin can hide. And honestly, it makes what the players did over All-Star Weekend look a little embarrassing. They puffed out their chests. They wore the protest shirts. Pay us what you owe us. They hijacked a fan event to push their message about what they deserve. But here's the cold truth. It was a gamble in the court of public opinion, and it backfired.
The t-shirt, just United Front, was determined this morning that we had a meeting for. And, not to tattletale, but 0 members of Team Clark were very present for that. But no, we were just, we had a very, that really needed to be mentioned.
And then came the cherry on top. Kelsey Plum, in the post-game press conference, threw shade straight at Caitlin Clark and her team. She implied they didn't even care enough to meet and talk about the protest t-shirts. Oof. That moment wasn't just awkward. It exposed the real tensions bubbling under the surface. While fans and media are debating ratings and protests, the players themselves are showing cracks in the unity the league desperately needs.
Quote, as you're fighting for better salaries, you're portraying a united front at your biggest event, you still find a way to throw shade at Caitlin Clark. Why? Stacey King posted. Quote, look at Sabrina's reaction to Plum's comment. It says a lot. Some of these girls are really petty, and someone needs to explain to them it's hurting their league and it's sad to see. He's not wrong.
With the poor on-court performance and Kelsey Plum's off-court messaging, the WNBA players couldn't afford another hit. A 36% drop in ratings would have been the dagger. ESPN's spin calling it a historic event was exactly the lifeline they needed. But right now, I'm talking about the court of public opinion. The owners, they can see right through this. And if you dig a little deeper, they'd probably be the first to admit behind closed doors that it's actually worse. If Caitlin Clark had played in the All-Star game, not just sat on the bench, the numbers wouldn't have just matched last year's 3.4 million viewers. They would have smashed it. Just look at this season's numbers. Whenever Caitlin suits up, the ratings explode. Her games against the Sky, Liberty, and Sun have all ranked among the most watched WNBA broadcasts in decades, pulling in 2.7 million, 2.2 million, and 1.7 million viewers respectively. Realistically, if Caitlin had played in the All-Star game, we wouldn't be talking about 3.4 million viewers. We'd be talking north of 4 million, which means this wasn't just a 36% drop. It was a 50% loss in potential viewership. Here's what's mind-blowing about all of this, though.
Even without Caitlin Clark, it was the second highest rated WNBA All-Star game ever, and that is a huge point of distinction. Two things are clear. If Caitlin Clark plays in the All-Star game, it will set records. But now, because of her popularity, even if she doesn't, it will break records and be the second highest ever. Only beaten by the time she played in it. And that matters.
Instead of comparing the All-Star game to 2023 to make it sound like some historic night, why not just say the quiet part out loud? Because of the Caitlin Clark effect and all the new fans she's brought in, you just had the second most watched All-Star game ever. And she wasn't even playing. Just admit it. The Caitlin Clark effect is real. It's helping the league grow. And in the same breath, welcome and thank your new fans. That's all they want to hear. Not this weird gaslighting. Not subtle shots at Caitlin after the game, implying she didn't support the protest when she's literally the foundation of everything you're fighting for. Here's the reality. The players are going to get more money. No question. Even though the league has taken a loss every year, team values have doubled since Caitlin arrived. The owners have every reason to invest. They don't want a lockout, and neither should the players. But here's the truth. They could get a lot more if they just embrace the people making this growth possible. If they stopped insulting the fans. If they stopped pretending Caitlin isn't the reason the numbers are moving. Because the more they resist the Caitlin Clark effect, the more obvious it becomes that it exists, and the longer Caitlin remains the only player those fans really care about. If you're still here, drop a goat in the comments because that's what you are. Thanks for watching.
See you next time.